Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I've just finished watching the 6th and final episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Unless of course they decide to make another season of the show, which, I mean, they could, it's possible. It would just be a very different show. But, yeah, wow, so obviously full spoilers, we're just gonna jump right into it. So at the end of the last episode, they had started attacking the building where they're holding this big vote. The GRC is gonna try to reinstitute borders, which is basically, the idea is that during the 5-year blip, because half the world went missing, people were allowed inside of countries because, obviously half the workforce is gone. So people were allowed inside of countries, borders were essentially taken down because we need people to fill these positions, and the economy, for the people who, beforehand were not allowed inside of countries and were not given opportunities, they suddenly had jobs and lives and careers and houses and all this stuff because, as Thanos' whole point really was, hey, things are plentiful now. Obviously, half the people had to die to make that happen. But, the GRC is essentially trying to bring things back to normal, which in reality means kicking a bunch of people out of the, taking things away from people that have been given opportunities for the last 5 years. Now those are being taken away and given back to people that were, they originally belonged to. Obviously, complicated issue. And that was the whole Flag Smasher thing. So they attack this place. They drag out all these senators, I guess. It seems like a UN type of deal, but it's over there in New York. So I guess they were senators, American senators, I suppose. Anyways, they kidnapped all of them. There's this really extended action sequence that pretty much goes on for the first half of the episode. And that's the first thing I want to say is that, like, the whole setup for the show, this last big confrontation with the Flag Smashers and John Walker and the Power Broker, we'll get into that. It only takes up the first half of this episode, and the second half of this episode is all about tying up a lot of loose ends and kind of preparing for, all right, here's where we're leaving things for future movies and stuff. So I thought that was interesting because this huge action sequence happens and all our characters are separated. Falcon's first, he's in the room, and then he's chasing a helicopter, and then meanwhile Winter Soldier's tracking down this one guy who's putting locks on the trucks where the senators are being kept, and it turns out the Flag Smashers are kidnapping them. And then John Walker shows up in the middle of that, and then Sharon Carter shows up, mysteriously. Sharon Carter just shows up, and they're like, oh hey, Sharon's here, crazy, because she's back in the United States, and she's, she hasn't been here in the United States since she left after Civil War, which in their time was 6 years ago, if not more, 7 years ago. Anyways, so they kind of just go with it because they assume oh, she's here to help us. And you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and address that first. Sharon Carter is revealed to be the Power Broker. After a big action sequence, Sharon Carter is chasing people around, taking people out. She has a confrontation with Carly alone. They're alone. She has her at gunpoint, and she reveals herself to be the Power Broker. And Carly, of course, already knew this because, Sharon's like, look, I just want you to come back and work for me again. And Carly's like, you just want your muscle back because you don't have super soldier. You need super soldiers to be on your team and all this stuff. However, it ends right as Carly ends up shooting Sharon. Only then does Sam walk in, and they have their big final confrontation, and Carly's about to shoot Sam, and then Sharon gets back up and shoots her, and then Carly dies. So it's just very conveniently, almost Palpatine-esque, in the sense of when Anakin walks in the room and Palpatine's like, oh no, I'm all weak. Anakin missed the first half of that fight. In almost a very similar way, Sharon Carter's secret is kept as the Power Broker. But I just, I knew it, there are people who were adamantly against this idea that she was going to be revealed to be the Power Broker. because even people like new rock stars, what's his name, Eric Voss, or well, I can't remember his name, but I watch New Rock Stars a lot, that channel, and he was like adamantly against it. Like, no, she was gone during Endgame, she was blipped, there's no way she had time to become the power broker, this and that. And I was always like, look, just because the screen in Endgame said Sharon Carter blipped, that does not mean that she couldn't have just faked that, because it's incredibly easy. If you want to disappear and people around the world are disappearing, you could just run away, pretend that you blipped, right? Like, just like, oh no, this person hasn't been seen in like months and months, they must be gone. You know, it's like, it'd be crazy easy to just disappear, you know. And I don't know, I'm just glad that I was right. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, I'm kind of celebrating a little bit. Sharon Carter is the power broker. It happened. My theory actually came true. Anyways, back to the episode. So yeah, basically big action sequence, everyone gets separated. Sam's got his new suit, which is awesome, by the way. It is very, very comic accurate to what it was. Now, here's my thing about that. I'm assuming that the wings are vibranium, because this came from Wakanda. Now, is the rest of his suit that he's got on, like the actual like fabric padded suit that he's wearing, is that vibranium also? Tell me that they put some vibranium in there. I have to imagine that they did, because my thing was like, Carly was about to shoot at him, and I was like, is that bullet gonna do anything? Because he's got like a Wakandan made suit on, so I don't know if that bullet, if he's actually in danger or not. Not that it ended up mattering, but anyways. So let's see, John Walker shows up, and at first, of course, he's he's pissed, right? Like, he went off the deep end, he went crazy. He shows up and he starts trying to fight people, and he does okay for a little while. You know, the people he's fighting are also super soldier serumed up, so he's not like completely destroying people or anything. And basically he has this moment where one of the trucks full of senators is about to fall over a cliff, and Carly's standing on the other side, and he has the choice to make. You know, does he chase Carly and let the senators fall, or does he try to save the senators? And this is like the defining moment of his character, because here's my thing about John Walker. He's a very flawed guy, you know what I mean? And he was arrogant as Captain America. He kind of, he felt like he deserved all this respect because he's carrying the title of the mantle of Captain America. But my thing has always been that, he's definitely a soldier. And if you come from a military family, like, you've met people like this, or at least you've seen this attitude around if you've been around military types a lot. But he's not like a bad person, you know what I mean? He's trying to do the right thing. He's just going about it in this super aggro, arrogant, like, way, you know what I mean? This he's just going about it in like the worst possible way. But he's not like a evil person, if you know what I mean. He's not literally trying to go out of his way to become evil. He's just, he I don't know, he needs to go to therapy, basically, is what I'm saying. But he makes the right choice here. He saves the senators, or at least tries to, instead of going after Carly. And so this is where you basically draw that line between someone being an anti-hero and someone being a villain. And that's basically where we leave him off at, is that he is an anti-hero now. He's definitely gonna do things not by the book. He's gonna burst out in rage and maybe murder someone, but he's still also gonna turn around and try to save people, because he's trying to be the good guy. He's just gonna do it in a very murdery way, I guess. So this is what I would say is a, almost Punisher-esque anti-hero. He's definitely not Captain America material, which is okay, because by the end of this episode, he meets back up with Val. I can't say her full name, who I've since learned is possibly Madam Hydra, so she's definitely being like an evil version of Nick Fury, rounding up other villains or anti-heroes, and is probably going to set up the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts or whatever evil version of the Avengers you want to say. And she gives him the title of U.S. agent and his new suit, which is very, very similar to the suit he had on. It's just black. He even says that, like, it's the same, it's just black. So it's got like the stripes in the same exact place, so it's also very comic accurate. And so that's cool. That's basically where we leave John Walker, and he's all happy. He's like, I'm back, so his character's fascinating. Again, he's not evil, he's just very anti-hero, very authoritative, I guess you would say. Very, like, I don't know, it's kind of a fascinating character study, like, to like break down, like, why is he the way he is. Anyways, so that's definitely a setup for future things. We're definitely gonna reach that point of getting an evil Avengers team. Speaking of which, another probable future member of the Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers, whatever you want to call them. So Zemo went to jail. He got sent to the raft by the Dora Milaje in the last episode. So at the end, they have arrested whatever members of the Flag Smashers are still alive at this point. They're in a truck, and one of the people who puts them in the truck, one of the police officers, he whispers, like I said, the whole like, "Hail Hydra," the whisper. They do the whisper of like, "One world, one people," and you think the Flag Smashers, like, oh, the Flag Smashers aren't done, the movement is going to continue, right? Because it's like, okay, they're going to escape. This guy who's putting them in the van is going to help them escape later, and it's all like a, there are secret supporters everywhere. And then the van explodes and they all die. And then you see Baron Zemo's butler in a truck, like he just activated an explosive device. And then Zemo had just heard the news over the radio. They're like, oh, all the Flag Smashers who are being transported to prison, they all died. So it's all a very, like he's still got the last laugh. In Val, when she's talking to John Walker's wife, which is kind of hilarious. She's just kind of like, Val is a great character because she does not seem to give any fucks, right? She's just openly talking to John Walker's wife like, wow, I guess Baron Zemo got the last laugh. I couldn't have planned it better myself, unless I did plan it. No, I didn't. Or did I? And it's like, I don't know. I love that character already. We need more of her. I'm sure we will see more of her, but I'm already loving that character. Anyways, so Baron Zemo did get the last laugh. What remained of the Flag Smashers, except for the guy who fell in the Hudson, because they mentioned that in a second. But all the other Flag Smashers are dead, apparently, except for one guy who fell in the water, and Falcon's gonna go help them. So speaking of Falcon, so okay, of course he's got his new Captain America suit on, and I guess I should just start calling him Captain America instead of Falcon. So when it's all said and done, Carly is dead. She's dead. They put her on a stretcher in the ambulance, and all the senators are around. They're like, "Oh, thank you for saving us." And they even say like, "Oh, you stopped those terrorists," and Sam is like, you got to stop calling them terrorists, right? And this is kind of where we get into like the whole narrative of a situation, like, because the second that, yes, I guess by definition, because it was all politically motivated terror, I guess you would have to say that this group was terrorist, right? By definition. But what they were actually trying to accomplish, the idea at least, not the way they went about it, obviously, but the idea at least was still in the right, obviously not the way they went about it. So my thing is like, he okay, for the most part in this show, I have really enjoyed the way that they've tackled heavy subjects, race, politics, economics, all this stuff that's all really tied together. I've enjoyed the way that this show has handled subjects. It never felt like it was beating you over the head with it. It never felt too preachy. It felt like they were doing like just the right amount in just the right way. This is the first moment where I kind of felt like, okay, it is starting to feel kind of preachy, because he's literally preaching to these senators about how the senators have to do better, and he's got like this whole prepared speech, and you know what he's saying is good. You know, it just, I feel like if they had, you know, it feels like what if they had done a scene where, you know, he's standing before them in a council meeting or something, and he's standing at a podium, and then he says this stuff. That seems like it would have been better than, you know, there's ambulance around and news stuff going around, and I don't know, something about the setting and the way that it was done here made it seem more preachy than if he had, you know, if he had like requested a meeting with the council or whatever, and he got in a podium and he said it that way. Somehow that seems like it would have worked a little bit better. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, the actual speech I don't mind, but something about the setting of it, it seemed like it was a little out of place. Like you got this whole prepared thing and you just fought a bunch of people. I don't know, something doesn't seem right. I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but something feels like it could have been done a little bit better. But in any case, the things that he was saying were still really great. But basically his point is that, you know, all those people that are gonna get, you know, they're all gonna have their homes taken away and their jobs taken away, and they're gonna get kicked out of countries and all this stuff. You know, he basically makes the point that, like, hey, the Flag Smashers, obviously they did a lot of stupid shit there at the end, and they tried to kill a lot of people, and then they did kill a lot of people. They set the van on fire, for God's sake, you know. But what they were trying to accomplish, they were right in that, you know. And the senator makes the point, like, hey, a lot of people who come back now and someone else is living in their homes, are they just homeless now? You know, and it you know, this is why it's politics, right? Like, this is what the whole conflict is about. But he basically is like, it's not about an easy choice, and you got to stop this vote. And you know, as far as like what they actually ended up doing, like the answer to the question, they don't really give you like a clear answer as to like, okay, so what did they end up doing? They just kind of leave it at, oh, they ended up amending some of the bill, or they're just going back to debating about it. But basically, I guess they're gonna find some middle ground way of, hey, let's not kick all these people out of the country and leave them on the streets, because that's why everyone was, you know, as Sam was saying, that's why everyone was supporting the Flag Smashers, and that's why everyone was willing to break the law for these people, because, you know, they are displacing a lot of people by signing this bill. So, you know, very heavy subjects, very complicated issue. But yeah, Sam basically preaches at these senators until they change things. And he even goes into, you know, the idea of him being a black Captain America, and how like him even wearing that suit, standing there, that's gonna piss a lot of people off. And you know, and the thing is like, he's, you know, obviously in universe that's true, but also in the real world that's also true. I've already seen some of it on YouTube, where the moment that this show started talking about actual issues, you know, that exist in the real world, a lot of people on YouTube started going like, this show's getting woke, this show's doing this show's just SJW, blah blah, you know. And that's my thing, is that like, they're basically making Sam's point. It's like, we can't talk about this, you can't have a black Captain America without everyone getting all pissed off about it. We can't address issues without everyone, you know, whenever people start coming out with like, this show's just doing SJW this, or it's just woke this, and they get all mad about it and make their YouTube videos about it, what they're really saying is they don't want people to address these issues because, well, you fill in the blanks there, right? Anyways, oh god, YouTube. Anyways, so basically what we left off at is that John Walker is probably going to join the Thunderbolts, or whatever this team is that Val's putting together. Obviously it's a very Dark Avengers-esque thing, and Sam and Bucky, they kind of just go back to their lives, you know. They're having a good time, they're having a grill out. Sam meets back up with Isaiah Bradley, and he shows him that he has his own section in the museum, the Captain America Museum now, whatever that place is called. Is that just the net? And what's that museum in New York? History Museum, whatever. I don't know what it's called. Anyways, he's got his own section now. He's got a statue, and basically he's like, hey, no one will ever forget what you did for this country, your legacy, which is really great. Like, that's, you know, that's a huge symbolic gesture there of, like, you know, they tried to erase Isaiah Bradley from history. They literally, like, no one knew about him. They locked him in jail and threw, you know, he was a disappeared person, you know what I mean? And so it's really great that he's, you know, his legacy is there, and Sam can be Captain America now, and it all comes together really nicely. Bucky talks to the father of the guy he, you know, way back in episode 1, and I don't think we've seen that guy since episode 1 or 2, actually. Bucky finally comes clean to that guy, and, you know, it's, you know, the guy's not okay, obviously, but it's part of Bucky's whole thing where he crosses off the names of the books, and then he leaves that with the therapist. And I have to imagine that there's still more people, although he crossed off all the names. So maybe that was it. Maybe they're just trying to say, like, hey, Bucky is, you know, he's not gonna forget or get over the stuff he did as Winter Soldier, but he's got to be able to forgive himself and try to, you know, as Sam said in the last episode, you have to make the other people feel better, not just yourself, kind of thing. So, you know, he gave that father the closure that he needed, because he wanted answers more than anything about why his son died. So that, you know, it was a I kind of wish the moment went on a little bit longer. I kind of wish we got more of the dad's reaction, but they show it for like a second and then they kind of move on. Let's see what else. And then at the very end there is a post-credit sequence. Sharon Carter gets pardoned by the committee, and then she walks out of the building, and on her phone, just like right outside the building, she's talking to people, and she's like, all right, superhumans or super soldiers might be off the menu, but we're about to have access to all this government information and all this prototype weapons and all this stuff, because they're gonna reinstate her in the government. I don't know where, because they said like, a part in your old division might be available, but SHIELD, as I understand it, is still disbanded in canon. I believe there's still no SHIELD. Maybe she's going to be a member of SWORD. I don't know. Anyways, she kind of just said it out in the open, and you think that, hey, didn't anyone hear that? I guess not. But yeah, that's basically where we left things. It was a pretty solid ending. I think we all knew that Carly was gonna die, and most of the Flag Smashers are dead now. You know, other than that one guy in the Hudson that they asked Sam to try and help them find, it doesn't seem like the Flag Smashers are gonna be a thing moving forward. It seems like that movement's gonna die down, and they didn't, you know, like I said, they didn't like directly answer like, so what did you do with all these displaced people? Like what was the solution here? They didn't really get into it, at least as far as I heard. I didn't hear them mention like specifically what they ended up trying to do. So that is a very interesting part. I don't really know what ends up happening. I will say this, something that I was thinking about. When the senator brings up the point of people coming back and there's other people living in their homes, are they just homeless now? If you remember Spider-Man Far From Home, that's kind of what happened to Aunt May, because she even mentions that she blipped back into her apartment and there was a family living there and they thought she was a ghost, and I believe that they were part of some kind of program or something. So I'm wondering if this is a little bit of a retcon of that, or the GRC was that program that they were part of, that like charity program. I don't know. It was very interesting. I kind of want to watch the beginning of Far From Home just to see if this lines up with that at all, because it kind of feels like they're dealing with the same thing in that movie a little bit. So I don't know, just pretty interesting. So yeah, basically we have a new Captain America, and you know, Bucky seems like he's finally, like, he has closure with his whole situation. John Walker is going to be a member of whatever Thunderbolts / Dark Avengers, whatever is going on there. Sharon Carter is the power broker, and I imagine that's definitely something that's going to be picked up later. And yeah, the Flag Smashers are pretty much gone, but they pretty much end it with, but the Flag Smashers were right though. But there's, you know, but they still died though. And that's pretty much the end of that situation. So yeah, overall, it feels like there's definitely some subjects that they were really comfortable talking about, and I applaud them for that. There are still some other things, like a lot of people I've seen online definitely had a problem with the way that they handled the Flag Smasher situation. You know, the idea that the people who are trying to do the right thing end up being the bad guys of the show and they die, but then the show still turns around and says, oh well, but they were right though. You know, this is not the first time that Marvel's kind of played that note. They had a similar situation with Black Panther. You know, like, Killmonger ultimately was right. You know, Wakanda should be doing more and should be opening their borders and trying to help the world and all this stuff. Obviously, you know, and just like the Flag Smashers, Killmonger was going to go about it the wrong way, you know, because his solution was to start fighting. And basically they end that movie with saying, like, okay, we're going to open our borders of Wakanda, we're going to help the world. So, you know, it feels like a note that the MCU has played before, which is fine, I guess. But, you know, I've noticed some people took issue with that. And I get it. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, overall, I would say a pretty damn solid show. You know, it's hard to compare two vastly different Marvel shows like this. You know, WandaVision was just a very different kind of experience. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think as a whole product, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was better put together than WandaVision was, because especially like those first 2 episodes of WandaVision, you know, if you don't know what's going to end up happening here, I can see those first 2 issues of WandaVision kind of being hard to get through. And then the ending, I will say the ending was not that strong. You know, especially because it feels like a lot of stuff was left unexplored or unanswered, and it didn't feel like it was done that way on purpose. It felt like it was done that way because they, for whatever reason, had to edit stuff out or do reshoots because of the pandemic, maybe. I don't know. Whereas this ending definitely felt like it landed a lot better than WandaVision's ending. It felt like they managed to tie pretty much everything up, I think, you know, and still leave the stuff open for later. But I wasn't left wanting more, you know. I wasn't left saying, like, what, that's it. This feels like a conclusion, whereas WandaVision felt like it was supposed to have another 30 minutes or something of a show, and it just wasn't there. So yeah, I think this show was a more solid one going around. Yeah. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you feel about this show in its entirety. Let me know how you feel about where everyone ended up. Are you kind of upset that Carly ended up dying and the Flag Smashers are kind of just over now? And what about Sharon Carter being the power broker? I called it. I'm happy that it happened, because it made so much sense, and they felt like they were dropping these really obvious hints. But then I had other people saying, like, no, there's no way it's happening, and I'm like, are you sure? Because it really seems like it's happening. And then it happened. So anyways, I'm just really happy. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know. One last thing before I get out of here, actually, I will say, because the whole event was happening during nighttime, some of the action scenes, I had to like rewind it, like especially when he's chasing the helicopter and then he gets he gets like pushed into something, and I'm like, wait, how did that happen? I had to like rewind it to see specifically how he was pushed into something. Maybe it's because I watched some of this on my phone. That's probably what happened. But I don't know. It kind of feels like some of it should have been at daytime. That way it'd be kind of easier to see the action. But anyways, overall, really great. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys on the next show. Is it Loki? Loki comes out in like 2-3 weeks. When does Bad Batch come out? Bad Batch comes out in like 1 week. Oh, we have Bad Batch and Loki, I think, gonna be running together a little bit, I think, right? Bad Batch, Loki. Anyways, I'll see you guys on whatever the next show is. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.